Welcome back for episode 3 of series 2 of 5 Things from Google. If you haven't been here before, then in a nutshell, I take a topic from the news or about the week in general. I'll type that phrase into Google and then present the 5 newest or most relevant items about it. I'll do a little research, ensuring that as far as possible the information is accurate, and when I release the episode, I'll make sure that all the web pages and sources I used are given as well. In Series 2, I'm releasing the episodes as both podcasts available on iTunes and also on my website 5thingsfromgoogle.com. It's also going to be on my YouTube channel called 5 Things From. Now, as I say at the start of each episode, when I quote from a website or source, I will quote verbatim, which means that it can happen there is a swear word or adult themes could be involved. This may make the episode unsuitable for work and also where such content would be frowned upon. I'll try to let you know up front if that will occur in an episode where I can, but viewer caution is advised generally. Now first, I have an apology to make. The podcasts and videos I've been doing have been longer than I was planning for this series. It certainly wasn't my intention, but when you have 5 things, it's hard to do justice to a topic in just a couple of minutes. But in this one, I promise I'll try and do better. So yesterday, when I was on Google, I noticed that the logo was in the style of the beach, and intrigued, I clicked the logo to be informed it was Wilhelm Bartelmann's 172nd birthday. Not that I had a clue who he was, but apparently he was an inventor of the Strandkorb, the iconic German basket chair that protects holidaymakers from sun, wind and neighbouring eyes on northern beaches, and also in parks, homes and on mountains too. Now, there's a piece of information that I'm sure I'll forget soon enough, but it did lead me to this week's topic, which is on things that happened on the 5 working days of this week. So, here's 5 things about this day in history. Number 1. October the 8th. Okay, let's start with October the 8th. In recent times, back in 2001, George W. Bush announced the establishment of the Office of Homeland Security. Its stated missions involve anti-terrorism, border security, immigration and customs, cybersecurity and disaster prevention and management. It was created in response to the September 11 attacks, and it's also currently the youngest US cabinet department. On this day in 1871, flames spark in the Chicago barn of Patrick and Catherine O'Leary, igniting a 2-day blaze that kills between 200 and 300 people. It destroys 17,450 buildings. It leaves 100,000 homeless and causes an estimated $200 million in 1871 terms, or $3 billion in today's money. Legend has it that a cow kicked over a lantern in the O'Leary barn and started the fire, but other theories hold that humans, or even a comet, may have been responsible for the event that left 4 square miles of the Windy City, including its business district, in ruins. On this day in 1919, the first transcontinental air race in the United States began, with 63 planes competing in the round-trip aerial derby between California and New York. As 15 planes departed from San Francisco, California, 48 planes left from Long Island, New York. As for celebrities, in 1939, actor Paul Hogan was born, in 1943 Chevy Chase, and in 1970 Matt Damon. In 1824, Salt Lake City founder Brigham Young wedded his first wife Miriam Angeline in Port Byron, New York. In 2005, Gilmore Girls actress Melissa McCartney wedded Joey actor Ben Falcone at the Oviatt Penthouse in Los Angeles. In 2010, musician Ben Harper divorced actress Laura Dern due to irreconcilable differences after just 5 years of marriage. As for sports, on October the 8th, 1956, New York Yankees right-hander Don Larson pitches the first no-hitter in the history of the World Series. Even better, it was a perfect game. That is, there were no runs, no hits, no errors, and no batter reached first base. His perfect game is still the only one in World Series history. It was also on this day in 1818 when 2 English boxers were the first to use padded gloves. In music, in 1957, Jerry Lee Lewis recorded The Great Balls of Fire in Memphis, Tennessee, and in 1971 John Lennon released his mega hit Imagine. Today was also the day in which the microwave oven was patented in 1945. In 2012, Hugo Chavez was re-elected the president of Venezuela for a fourth term. And in 1962, North Korea reported a 100% election turnout. Amazingly, 100% voted for the Workers' Party. Number 2. October the 9th. On October the 9th in 1967, socialist, revolutionary and guerrilla leader Che Guevara, who was aged 39, was killed by the Bolivian army. The US military-backed Bolivian forces captured Guevara on October the 8th while battling his band of guerrillas in Bolivia, and they assassinated him the following day. His hands were cut off as proof of death and his body was buried in an unmarked grave. In 1997, Guevara's remains were found and sent back to Cuba, where they were reburied in a ceremony attended by President Fidel Castro and also thousands of Cubans. During the Battle of Britain, the German Luftwaffe launches a heavy nighttime air raid on London. The dome of St. Paul's Cathedral was pierced by a Nazi bomb, leaving the high altar in ruin. It was one of the few occasions that the 17th century cathedral suffered significant damage during Germany's nearly ceaseless bombing raids in London in the fall of 1940. On this day in 1936, harnessing the power of the mighty Colorado River, Hoover Dam begins sending electricity over transmission lines spanning 266 miles of mountains and deserts to run the lights, radios and stoves of Los Angeles. Initially named Boulder Dam, work on the dam was begun under President Herbert Hoover's administration, but it was completed as a public works project during the Roosevelt administration, which renamed it for Hoover. When it finished in 1935, the towering concrete and steel plug was the tallest dam in the world. In 1931, Tony Booth, the British actor and father of Cherie Blair, was born, as well as John Lennon in 1940, Sharon Osbourne in 1952, and also Scott Bakula, from the actor from Quantum Leap and Star Trek Enterprise. He was born in 1954. In 2005, Savage Garden musician Daniel Jones wedded High Five member Kathleen de Leon at Avica Weddings and Resort on the Gold Coast in Queensland. In 2011, musician Paul McCartney, who was 69 at the time, wedded New Yorker Nancy Chevelle in a civil ceremony at Old Marylebone Town Hall, London. And in 1973, Elvis and Priscilla Presley divorced after 6 years. And 1980, Princess Caroline of Monaco divorced Philip Junot. On to the world of sport. In 1988, the 9th Rugby League World Cup, where Australia beat New Zealand 25-12. In 1989 was the beginning of the 27th Tennis Federation Cup, where USA beat Spain in Tokyo, Japan 3-0. As for the world of music, in 1965 the Beatles' Yesterday single goes to number 1, where it will stay number 1 for 4 weeks. In 1966 the Rolling Stones' first LP was recorded, Got Live If You Want It. 1986 Phantom of the Opera premieres in London. And it's also the day in 1192 where Richard I of England, the Lionheart, left Jerusalem in disguise. In 1804, Hobart in Tasmania was founded. In 1855, American inventor Isaac Singer patented the sewing machine motor. In 1989, Penthouse magazine's Hebrew edition hits the newsstands for the first time. And it was just 1 year ago, the second US presidential debate. It was a hostile confrontation between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton at Washington University, St. Louis. Number 3. October the 10th. On this day, in 2004, the actor Christopher Reeve, who became famous for his starring role in 4 Superman films, died from heart failure at the age of just 52 at a hospital near his home in West Chester, New York. Reeve, who was paralyzed in a 1995 horse riding accident, was a leading advocate for spinal cord research. On this day in 1881, Charles Darwin published The Formation of Vegetable Mold Through the Action of Worms. He considered this work to be much more as an important accomplishment than his Origin of the Species, which was written in 1859. That one turned out to be one of the most influential and controversial books in history. In 1957, a fire occurred at the Windscale nuclear plant in Cumbria. England becomes the world's first major nuclear accident. It was ranked in severity at level 5 out of a possible 7 on the International Nuclear Events Scale. The fire took place in Unit 1 of the Two-Pile Windscale facility on the northwest coast of England in Cumberland. The fire burned for 3 days, and there was a release of radioactive contamination that spread across the UK and also Europe. In 1965, Christopher Penn was born, and in 1954, David Lee Roth, the American rock singer from Van Halen, was born in Bloomington, Indiana. In 1959, Chris Lowe, the English rock keyboardist from the Pet Shop Boys, was born. In 1975, actress Elizabeth Taylor, who was 43, had her 6th marriage and also remarriage to actor Richard Burton, who was 49. In 2016, actor and director Shia LaBeouf wedded nymphomaniac co-star Maya Goth, who was 23, at Viva Chapel in Las Vegas, Nevada. And in 1974, actress Elizabeth Montgomery, who was 41, divorced director-producer William Asher after 11 years of marriage. In the world of sport, in 1936, Donald Bradman scored 212 in just 202 minutes in a cricket testimonial game. In 1964, the 18th modern Olympic Games opened in Tokyo. In 1976, Greece's 98-year-old Dimitrion Jordanadis is the oldest man to compete in a marathon. He finishes in 7 hours, 33 minutes. Onto the world of music. In 1971, Fenholt and Weber's musical Jesus Christ Superstar premiered in New York City. In 1979, Fleetwood Mac gets a star in Hollywood. 2014, Taylor Swift releases her 5th studio album called 1989. It went on to be the 2015 Billboard Album of the Year and also the Grammy Award of the Album of the Year in 2016. It was also on this day back in '59 that Pan Am began regular flights around the world. In 2008, Singapore became the first Asian country to slip into a recession since the credit crisis began. The growth had faltered as a result of less demand for exports, a reduction in tourism, and the end of the real estate boom. In 1987, Whitesnake's iconic video featuring Jaguars with the song Here I Go Again was released. Whitesnake would top the Billboard Pop Singles charts in the United States. Number 4. October 11. On this day in 2002, former President Jimmy Carter wins the Nobel Peace Prize for his decades of untiring effort to find peaceful solutions to international conflicts, to advance democracy and human rights, and to promote economic and social development. In 1968, Apollo 7, the first manned Apollo mission, is launched, with astronauts Walter M. Schirra, Jr., Don F. Eisel, and Walter Cunningham aboard. Under the command of Schirra, the crew of Apollo 7 conducted an 11-day orbit of Earth, during which the crew transmitted the first live television broadcasts from orbit. On this day in 1975, Saturday Night Live, or SNL, a topical comedy sketch show featuring Chevy Chase, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Gilda Radner, Garrett Morris, Jane Curtin, and Lorraine Newman, makes its debut on NBC. It will go on to become the longest-running, highest-rated show on late-night television. In the world of births, in 1957, Dawn French, the Welsh comedienne and TV actress from Supergrass, French and Saunders, and The Vicar of Dibley was born. In 1966, Luke Perry, the American actor from Beverly Hills 90210, was born in Mansfield, Ohio. And in 1985, Michelle Trachtenberg, the American actress who played Dawn from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. As for weddings, in 1938, jazz musician Louis Armstrong, who was 37, weds his long-term girlfriend Alpha Smith. In 1987, rock and blues singer Joe Cocker, who was 43, weds Pam Baker. And in 2009, Mad Men actress Christina Hendricks, who was 37, weds the actor Jeffrey Arand, who was 34, at the couple's favourite Il Buco restaurant in New York City. As for the world of sport, in 1890, this was the day the first 100-yard dash under 10 seconds was run by John Owen in 9.8 seconds at Andalustan Island in Washington, D.C. In 1902, it was the commencement of the first Test cricket between South Africa and Australia. And in 1927, Lou Gehrig was named the MVP, after Babe Ruth, the former winner, was no longer eligible. As for music, in 1969, blues artist Muddy Waters was involved in a car crash that killed 3 people. In 1981, an unknown rocker named Prince opened for the Rolling Stones at the LA Coliseum. In 1982, the 16th Country Music Association Awards were given to Willie Nelson and Ricky Skaggs. It was also this day, in 1521, that Pope Louis X titles King Henry VIII of England Defender of the Faith. In 1864, slavery was abolished in Maryland. In 1899, South African Boers declare war on Great Britain. In 1922, the first woman FBI special investigator was appointed. Her name was Alaska Davidson. In 1982, the English ship the Mary Rose, which sank during an engagement with the French in 1545, was raised at Portsmouth, England. And in 1994, the Nobel Prize in Economics is awarded to John Nash for his pioneering analysis of equilibria in the theory of non-cooperative games. Finally, on this day, in 1995, John Bobbitt has plastic surgery to increase the length of his penis by 3 inches. Number 5. October the 12th. In 1492, Columbus reaches the New World after sailing across the Atlantic Ocean. Italian explorer Christopher Columbus sights a Bahamian land, believing it's reached East Asia. His expedition went ashore the same day and claimed the land for Isabella and Ferdinand of Spain, who had sponsored his attempt to find a Western Ocean route to China, India, and the fabled Gold and Spice Islands of Asia. In 1810, the origin of Oktoberfest. Bavarian Crown Prince Louis, later King Louis I of Bavaria, marries Princess Theresa von Sachsen-Hildburghausen. The Bavarian royalty invited the citizens of Munich to attend the festivities. The decision to repeat the festivities and the horse races in the subsequent year gave rise to the tradition of the annual Oktoberfest. This now begins in late September and lasts until the first Sunday of October. On this day, in 2007, former US Vice President Al Gore and the United Nations International Panel on Climate Change are awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. It was for their efforts to increase public knowledge about man-made climate change. In 2006, Gore had starred in the Academy Award-winning documentary An Inconvenient Truth. This was credited with raising international awareness about the global warming crisis. Birthdays on this day. In 1935, Luciano Pavarotti, the Italian operatic tenor, was born in Modena, Italy. In 1968, Hugh Jackman, the Australian actor and singer from X-Men, was born in Sydney, Australia. And in 1969, Marty McGuire, the American musician from Dixie Chicks. As far as weddings on this day, in 1980, Oscar-winning actor Dustin Hoffman, who was 43, wedded businesswoman Lisa Gotteshagen, who was 26, in Roxbury, Connecticut. In 1991, Steven Spielberg wedded Kate Capshaw, and in 2001, singer Natalie Cole marries Kenneth H. Dupre. In 2013, former Guns N' Roses Matt Sorum wedded singer and dancer Adrian Harper in Palm Springs, California. As for sport, in 1968, this was the opening day of the 19th Olympic Games in Mexico City. In 1991, boxer Hector Camacho was arrested for driving while getting oral sex. And in 2003, the 54th Formula One finished. Michael Schumacher won by 2 points. In the world of music, in 1966, Jimi Hendrix Experience forms with Jimi Hendrix, Noel Redding, and Mitch Mitchell. In 1978, Sid Vicious was charged with murder of girlfriend Nancy Spungen. The body of 20-year-old Nancy Spungen was found in a room at New York's famous Chelsea Hotel. She and her boyfriend, Sex Pistols bassist Sid Vicious, had been living in room 100 for about a month and a half when Vicious called the front desk saying something had happened to his girlfriend. What had happened was it turned out she was dead from multiple stab wounds to her stomachs. Within 3 months, he would be found dead by his mother of a heroin overdose. After his death, the New York Police Department closed the case against him, and they never pursued any other action regarding Spungen's death. Also on this date, in 1892, the US Pledge of Allegiance was first recited in a public school during Columbus Day. In 1900, the first submarine was commissioned by the US Navy as the USS Holland. It was named for its designer, John Philip Holland. In 1901, Theodore Roosevelt renamed the Executive Mansion as the White House. In 1984, the IRA bombs the Grand Hotel Brighton, where British PM Margaret Thatcher is staying. 5 people lose their lives. And in 1999, the day of 6 billion. This was the day where they proclaimed the 6 billionth living human in the world was born. So that's 5 things about the history of the day from this week. As always, if you have any comments, then please email them to 5thingsfrom@gmail.com. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can just leave a comment below. If you're listening to this as a podcast, then thank you for listening, and please subscribe if you haven't already on iTunes. I'll see you back here again soon. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching.